As the Israeli war with Iran intensifies, all eyes turn to Washington, where US President Donald Trump has reportedly approved plans for a US strike, but has yet to make a final decision. Inside the Trump administration, divisions are deepening, while hoax like Senators Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham push for direct US involvement. Key MAGA figures, including Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, warned this would be a betrayal of Trump's anti-war promises. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance urged unity, saying Trump should be trusted. Yet, Trump's own intelligence officials and polling among his supporters reveal growing skepticism over the rationale for a direct military involvement in Israel-Iran conflict. Will Trump launch a new war in the Middle East, or will resistance from within his own movement stop him? Welcome to In Depth. Now, according to The Guardian, Donald Trump's threats to join Israeli strikes on Iran are causing a major rift with his MAGA base, while traditional Republican hosts like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell urge intervention. America First voices such as Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene warn that military action would betray Trump's long-standing anti-war stance. Carlson predicted such a war would end Trump's presidency, while Bannon cautioned it should, or rather could, derail his domestic agenda. Skepticism is spreading even among loyalists like Charlie Kirk, who stressed that many Trump voters backed him because he opposed forever wars. Confusion over Trump's true intentions, demanding Iran's unconditional surrender, while also speaking of diplomacy, has deepened tensions. Senator Rand Paul called for restraint, while establishment figures push for escalation. One former Pentagon official told the Washington Post the Iran issue had brought the America First movement to an inflection point, according to The Guardian.
As Israeli airstrikes pound Iranian territory, the question of whether the United States will join the war remains unanswered. President Donald Trump has reportedly approved plans to attack Iran, but he hasn't made a final decision. The possible target is Iran's deep underground Fordow nuclear facility, which Israel cannot destroy without American bombs. Inside Trump's administration and political base, a fierce play has emerged. Some allies, like Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Lindsey Graham, back military action, citing the threat of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Others, including Congressmember Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of Trump's loyal supporters, call any such move a betrayal, saying that the U.S. full involvement is not America First. Many of the politicians who are most strongly associated with the MAGA movement have now come out explicitly against deeper U.S. involvement in the war on Iran. The critics include Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, and former Congressman Matt Gaetz. Vice President J.D. Vance, while skeptical of war, is trying to bridge the divide. He urged Trump supporters to trust the president, saying he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish the American people's goals. Meanwhile, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie introduced a resolution to block Trump from taking military action without congressional approval. Despite Trump saying that Iran was weeks away from a nuclear weapon, U.S. intelligence briefed senators that Iran was not actively working on one. The debate over war with Iran is not only shaping the conflict in the Middle East, it's trying to split Trump's political base.
Well, welcome back for more analysis. We are joined from Quito, Ecuador, by Mr. Justin Thomas Russell, Executive Director of the Global Foreign Policy Center of Washington, and from Washington by Mr. Dan Renee, the political researcher. We welcome both of you gentlemen to Qnews and to In Depth. Let me start with Mr. Renee. Trump has reportedly approved plans to attack Iran, but hasn't decided yet. What does this tell us about the political risk he is weighing internally?
Yes, and thank you so much for the opportunity. This is certainly a historic and incredibly important issue and matter that the whole world is watching here.
Definitely.
Yes, the fact is that Trump is weighing much more than politics here. Trump came into the White House for the second time with his America First agenda and the promise of no more of these forever wars. And so I can see where there is some division there politically, where people want to argue that this is in direct contradiction to what he has promised during the campaign. That said, he's also been abundantly clear that Iran can never, ever have a nuclear weapon. And what we're seeing now with what has happened in Iran's failure at the diplomacy efforts and their response to these attacks from Israel to obliterate the nuclear program, with Iran's response hitting hospitals and civilian areas, it is certainly something where the United States probably has to do something to get involved to put an end to Iran's nuclear program.
But isn't it reciprocal, Mr. Renee? It's reciprocal. I mean, same kind of strikes, or what?
Well, I would respectfully disagree with the same kind of strikes, because what the objective here and what the objective would be for any United States involvement would be clearly focused on dismantling and making sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. That really is what.
What I really meant was reciprocal is the kind of strikes Israel and Iran carry out with. This is what I meant here.
Again, and I can disagree with that again respectfully again, and that what we saw with Israel and their initial strikes on Iran was on military targets, on intelligence targets, on defense targets. And what we're seeing in Israel coming from Iran are hospitals, are residential buildings, and other things in population centers. So there is a big difference here in the types of attacks and responses that we're seeing here. And so it really does show that if Iran were to at some point have a nuclear weapon, that its trust in what it would do with something like that is certainly lacking. And so while I do see, again, I'm a big fan when it comes to diplomacy. I think that talking about problems is much better than violence and destruction and loss of life. But that said, it seems that the diplomacy efforts had reached the end of their end of the line there, and something had to be done as Iran got closer and closer to procuring this nuclear weapon.
Mr. Russell, let me reiterate the same question from another perspective. And Trump hasn't ordered the strike yet. What does this hesitation signal about his approach to foreign military action?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me. Well, let's be clear about this. Is number one, there's an entire process that's going on inside Washington, inside the National Security Advisors, discussions with the military leadership of the Pentagon, and also with our foreign allies through State Department and diplomatic channels. So there's a lot of factors in play that are happening instantaneously and even as we speak. But let's look at this practically. We're hearing a lot of people saying, look, we're not going to put up with this. They're seeking proliferation of nuclear weapons. here's the bottom line, and we have to, again, look at this practically. We had a deal. We had the JCPOA. Was it perfect? No. But what everybody in our allied circles, every member of NATO, and as well as even the IAEA saying that there was not an active participation of the Iranian nuclear infrastructure seeking to proliferate nuclear weapons. We had that deal. When Donald Trump backed out of that deal, this is when it became difficult. And now we're at the point where we're starting to have to pay the fact that now we withdrew from JCPOA, and now basically what we're trying to do is reestablish it, and we're not doing a good job of doing it diplomatically. It is hard for us to say, hey, last week we were sitting here watching dialogue happen with the Omanis kind of moderating the discussion between Washington and Tehran. When Benjamin Netanyahu went and systematically decided to invade on the premise that they were trying to take out the nuclear capabilities, which you talk to any expert in nuclear fission, nuclear power, and inside the military apparatus, they will tell you that there was no way we were going to fully take out the nuclear capabilities of Iran. That's just not realistic. So what has to happen now is, and I will say, and let me be clear, I do agree with the administration that there is no way that we can allow proliferation of nuclear weapons by the clerical central government of Iran. That is a non-starter.
Hello?
The unnecessary loss of life.
Right. Right. Let me go here to Mr. Renee. And Mr. Renee, Trump says, as you reiterated, that Iran was weeks away from a nuclear weapon. But the U.S. intelligence briefed senators that Iran was not actively working on one. Now, how do such contradictory claims affect the U.S. credibility?
Yes, I do not know where things are in terms of whether they were a day away, an hour away, a month away, or a year away.
No, they were. The intelligence, your intelligence, said they were not working on one.
Well, I think that there are conflicting reports there that we've seen, and I think that we've seen additional reports from elsewhere that shows that the movements that were happening were that these nuclear capabilities were becoming more and more imminent. And the fact of the matter is, if we're negotiating over the fact that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon, then obviously there is something going on there that needed to be stopped. And let's be clear too about the previous nuclear agreements. What happened there when 2015, when Trump pulled out of that, it was because Iran had been violating every portion of the agreement that it had been part of.
How about the nuclear activity of Israel, Mr. Renee?
Again,
nobody's addressing this issue.
Nuclear activity, again, I mean, this is an issue where Iran is not going to be able to have a nuclear weapon because it cannot be trusted on the world stage.
Yes, but you're addressing the Iranian. Yes, but you're addressing the Iranian probability of having nuclear weapon, while Israel already has a nuclear weapon. So why isn't the United States addressing both sides?
Israel has a right. Israel has a right to defend itself against aggressors. These aggressors that have attacked it, having been funded by Iran. So when we look at the rise of Hamas and Hezbollah and these things, I mean, these are rockets and supplies that have been agitated by and funded by and supported by Iran. So this national actor that constantly has violated every agreement that it's been part of and continues to chant "Death to America,
How
death
about
to Israel,"
Israel's
cannot be
nuclear
trusted to have a
activity,
nuclear
Mr.
weapon.
Renee?
And
how about
right,
nuclear...
Iran cannot be trusted to have a nuclear weapon, and the world stage agrees with that.
Let me go here to Mr. Russell, and Republican figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson are opposing war. Now, how unusual is it for Trump's most loyal allies to publicly defy him?
Well, it is unusual because this is not something that they would normally do. But at the same time, you're talking about a president that in 2024, not less than a year ago, was on the campaign trail telling everybody that he did not want to involve the U.S. in long-term conflict. This is exactly what we're preparing to do right now. If anybody thinks this is not going to be long-term, they don't understand the geopolitical scene right now. The other thing I want to talk about is, this idea that, that non-proliferation for one, but proliferation for the other is completely acceptable. That is undermining the whole idea of the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Nobody is more of a hawk when it comes to the sovereignty and the protection of the citizens and the government of Israel than I am. I have done this for decades. I have also stated the fact that there needs to be a roadmap to a two-state solution. Again, another time, another story. But when it comes to Iran, when we hear people, and particularly with the fact that Donald Trump's own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified in front of the Senate and said there is no evidence between any of our allied partners that gives way to the claims of proliferation and the active working on a nuclear weapon by the government of Iran. His own director of national intelligence, his own intel person, is telling him this, and they still defy the intelligence estimates given by their own intelligence services. That being said, we either have to be on the side of not engaging and being, not engaging and putting our troops in harm's way for another long-term battle in the Middle East, or we're going to have to take it back and understand the fact that we are all in on Israel, right or wrong, and this could cause further loss of innocent lives. It could put our national security interests and our warfighters at grave risk, and put our own allies at risk in the region.
Right. Mr. Renee, a wide-ranging economist YouGov poll revealed that 53% of voters who backed Trump in the 2024 presidential election do not want the country to join in Israel's strikes. Could this internal opposition derail Trump's decision? What do you have on that?
Yeah, again, I do think that there is a small part of the decision-making process that is taking place, but I really would think that politics plays little to any role in this decision. It really becomes a decision on whether or not this can be something that prevents that forever war that your previous guest just mentioned, and it's something that I fear he's right on. I hope that he's not, and I hope that it is exactly the decision-making process that's happening in the White House right now, is that if this can be a surgical style attack that can dismantle these nuclear capabilities and find a way to bring Iran back to the diplomacy table, that would be the best way.
So public opinion,
people fear this could be longer.
So public opinion in the United States does not reflect on the political decision inside the White House? Is this what you're saying here?
I'm saying that it does matter, but the safety of the world stage and what needs to happen here in terms of protecting our allies and protecting the world against a nuclear Iran is something that has to weigh into the decision-making process. Politics should not be what wins the day. Public opinion, of course, is incredibly important. The American people don't want to see more wars. They don't want to see more violence or destruction. But at the same time, we also don't want to see a nuclear Iran that would result in much more of those same things.
Again, you're addressing the nuclear issue. And again, I'm asking you about the Israeli nuclear capabilities. We'll get back to you, Mr. Renee, again. Mr. Russell, Trump built his political brand criticizing regime change wars. Now, how do we explain his current apparent openness to join Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear sites And what do you have of what Mr. Renee here said?
With all due respect to Mr. is literally the mantra that is coming out of the White House. I can't fault Mr. Renee for that, and I concur with what he's saying if I agree with that mantra. What I will say, though, however, is this is a situation where we don't have credibility. The credibility here is just bad. When Steve Witkoff, the special envoy for the Middle East, goes to the table and starts working in good faith, and then having a solid dialogue with the Iranian leaders across the table, 24 hours after Steve Witkoff leaves, the Israelis kill them. So the people that we're trying to negotiate, the people that are now gone. And now we have a void of thought leadership in having any discussions on where we get to a peaceful diplomatic solution in all of this. That's not going to happen right now. The other thing we have to look at is if we do engage, which we should not, the reason why we are trying to, that Israel wants us engaged in this, because in order to take out the Iranian nuclear capabilities, particularly with the accusations that they have active operations proliferating nuclear weapons, those facilities are so far deep underground, the Israelis don't have the arsenal to do it. They need basically a bunker buster capability. They need what we would call the mother of all bombs, and the only allied force that has that is the United States. That is why Israel, because in order to get this, they have to get out. There's one other aspect that we have not discussed, and this is big, is what is the end game? If Bibi Netanyahu's end game was to disrupt and stop the nuclear program from proliferating nuclear weapons, we could have done that diplomatically, or Mossad did it in the first 48 hours surgically. If this is the goal, we've far surpassed that. Then if this, it looks like, is Bibi Netanyahu's attempt to go to regime change, we just put out an article that says, if you're going to try and go to regime change, you better win the hearts and minds of the larger general population of Iran. And right now, they are losing that fight. And they are strengthening the resolve of Iranian nationalism, saying, you don't do this to us. You're killing our people. That's just going to solidify Ayatollah Khomeini and President Peshkarian in their position. That's what we don't want. We got to take that into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Renee, Republican Senator Thomas Masai introduced a resolution to block Trump from taking military action without congressional approval. Now, how likely is it that Congress could actually restrain Trump?
I would give that about a between 0 and 0% chance. The fact of the matter is that Congress is doing this. It's a purely political move. And the fact of the matter is that there are constitutionally protected powers that both the Congress and the president can enjoy. So this type of last-ditch attempts to embarrass the president and try to take away these types of powers by Congress is nothing more than a political stunt. So I don't think that's anywhere close to being anywhere near the realm of reality. But the other thing that, again, I have to agree with the previous guests, too, and that, what Trump and the White House and the Republicans are looking toward is finding a way that this does not become that forever war, that this does not become long-term engagement that we've seen happen here previously, and that is in contradiction to the America First philosophy.
Just let me here pinpoint my finger on something you said, very important. It's 0 to 0. Now, 0 to 0 meaning that neither the public opinion nor the congressional resolutions can really have any kind of or do not count into or the president's decisions. Is exactly what you're saying here? Mr. Renee?
Well, I don't want to say that, but I'll say it's not a political calculus. It's a policy calculus. It's a
and the
safety
Congress
calculus.
does not is not supposed to be involved in the political decisions such as going into war, Mr. Renee?
Again, Congress has the power to declare war, but there are things that can happen that the president has authority as commander in chief of the military armed forces that allow the president to have certain capabilities that are separate from the capabilities of Congress. And if Congress were so concerned about these things, perhaps they would have restricted perhaps President Biden or President Obama or President Bush's previous attempts when there have been other attempts at this. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the White House is trying to find a path forward where this does not become that forever war that we all see. And there's been no one that has looked more at diplomatic efforts than this White House. So again, I think that needs a diplomatic effort that needs to be considered here. But again, a couple of coming out and saying that this is going to be politically damaging for the president. I don't think that this matters politically because he's not running for re-election. This is a policy, this is a safety, this is a foreign affairs decision calculus that needs to take place, and it needs to be done.
Remains to be seen. Very clear your point here. Very clear your point here. Unfortunately, my time is out. That was Mr. Justin Thomas Russell, Executive Director of the Global Foreign Policy Center of Washington, and Mr. Dan Renee, the political researcher. We thank you both, gentlemen, for your insights here. And I guess that concludes our episode of today of In Depth. Many thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for more coming up on Q News.